I'm Edward Warfield, the publisher of CityBiz, and I'm honored today to interview Ray Rasmussen, who is the founder and managing partner of rGen Consulting, and Margaret Snape, who is the management and operations management of rGen Consulting. Welcome, Ray and Margaret.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Can you tell me a little bit about your firm and your backgrounds?
Sure. rGen Consulting is a business consulting firm. It's always been focused on the revenue side of consulting, meaning we help firms figure out how to go to market and how to take advantage of what they bring to the marketplace. We formed the company about 2 years ago, focused on that revenue side of consulting and the business processes that go with optimizing around artificial intelligence. So we had long been in the business of the kind of thing that we're talking about. It's been in the last 2 years, though, we've seen a dramatic change as we've seen people move toward artificial intelligence as an enabler of business.
And so how did you two come together on this concept of an AI consulting firm?
You know, it's kind of interesting. My background is I did mergers and acquisitions for Deloitte Consulting for 10 years, and we had to knit together big companies. And so our understanding on how the processes work together is grounded a lot in that effort, and as well as Margaret's similar experiences. But I worked as the director of strategy for Microsoft business applications worldwide. And there I could see that artificial intelligence, which has been around since the 1960s, was about to make a dramatic leap in the large language models that were coming out. And they were going to enable a completely different kind of business process and different kinds of go-to-market. And we saw a real opportunity. So in the middle of a pandemic, Margaret and I got together and decided it was time to open up a firm. So we've been focused on, helping optimize his businesses for the last couple of years. But what's happened in the last year is we've seen the artificial intelligence become a greater and more important part of our business.
And so, Margaret, why don't you share some of your experience and your decision to hook up with Dad?
Yeah, so it actually starts way back in 2007. I worked.
I hope it starts before that.
I worked before I joined forces with my dad, but back in 2007, that's when I joined his first consulting firm. And so we worked for a number of years together with big technology companies. And there, my area of focus was really around business management, project and program management, and change management. And I went off, I weaved in and out of that business, went off and worked for a large manufacturing company, and then again for a electrical engineering firm. And then a couple of years ago, we got together and we both were thinking about starting a business, and it just kind of made sense. So here we are.
So what advice do you provide to organizations trying to implement AI into their workflow? And do you focus on the marketing content creation, or do you focus more on the costs of using AI?
I think for most of our clients, we say that there's kind of a three-step process here. We have folks that are stumped, they kind of wonder what AI is really all about. And then we have folks that are started, and then we have, folks that are savvy with respect to what to do with AI. And most of our people come to us, if they were here on the call with us, they'd say, well, we're stumped and we wonder how to get started. So we bring something we call foundation services to the table. And what that permits us to do is for, 4 weeks and in a very short order, what we try to do is give them a very simple proof of concept application that they can use and try out just to get their feet wet and then try just to see how things go. And then we've really surveyed a lot of the artificial intelligence stuff that is out there. So we're probably we have good current information on about 60 of the artificial intelligence applications and solutions that are out there, depending on the industry that we're looking at. And so we offer them a survey and a result and a set of recommendations around that. And we try to talk to their people about the scenarios that really need to be supported and try to come up with a way to get them started. So foundation services is about taking leading edge technologies and getting it into getting it into the organization in kind of a low friction way that allows people to understand what the power and potential of artificial intelligence is, and to focus on that. Now, for folks that consider themselves, in a little better position, or for folks that we've already delivered that service, there's a transformation service that we bring. And that's where you really look at things end to end. And, this is a little bit related to the work that we did as in mergers and acquisitions, where you take two big companies and you had to look at processes across the board. And you have to prioritize them. But in the transformation phase, there's an opportunity to apply artificial intelligence in almost every area of the business. And then finally, we focus on something we call evolution. And evolution services really are about creating the culture and the environment where people are looking for opportunities to apply process improvement and artificial intelligence in a manner that moves the business along, but also have created an environment within which change is expected, change is embraced, and they can flourish in an environment where things are constantly going to be shifting.
So I think we're in a world where it appears that people are either the early adapters racing ahead, embracing AI, or, sort of the curmudgeon, reluctant. But you can't have, the heavy, I guess there are a few people with their head in the sand, but, so how are you, how are you seeing that are you seeing clients that are the ones that don't have their head in the sand? Hey, we're going to embrace this. We're going to totally rethink that. Yeah. Who are your clients? What profile are they fitting?
Yeah. So I have seen a range is the short answer. I've chatted with folks who are truly surprised at where the technology is today. And so, you can go to Bing right now and click the chat button and use a version of artificial intelligence like right now today. And so there are some people who are surprised that it's that far along. And then there are other people who are starting to think about it and its impacts to their business. And so we do see quite a bit of range. But the folks that we work with are the folks that are most forward thinking and starting to understand how it's going to transform their business, how it will impact their team, and ultimately, how they play in the marketplace.
Edwin, if it's okay, I'll add to that. Within organizations, you have a little bit of a continuum as well. We work a lot with law firms, and the senior partners particularly are in the later stages of their career. And I think a question they're asking themselves is, can I just wait this out? Or do we have to make investments that, are going to, change the, immediate compensation of the partners? So I think that you have a little bit of a range, whether you certainly have some industries that are going to be more impacted and more quickly, and certainly the law industry is one of those. But even among those industries, we find that there are people with a passion and leadership interest, and then I think there are people who are wondering whether or not they really have to buy into this, or if they can just wait it out.
Yeah, I think it's beyond overwhelming to stay. I think it's just beyond overwhelming. Obviously, I think I think there's sort of an important role for a consultant, because in the old days, and I'm going back 20 or 30 years ago, the finance, you could stay atop of technology, but within an hour there are 30 AI companies. And yes, as a consultant, theoretically, your job is to curate the best solutions, but that seems like that's best solutions in a real time environment.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful. What I would add to that a little bit is that the trick is not to pick the necessarily the solution that is ahead by, say, a sliver. The trick is to get solutions that are going to be enduring. And so as we take a look at it, there's only a few of the technologies that really look to us like they're going to be the ponies to ride over the long haul. So one of the things we help our clients steer clear of is getting involved with one of those companies that's been started for the last 15 minutes, and they might have something good to offer, but there's a potential you've made an investment then that you have to back up on and do something else.
So I guess capital, those that are extremely well capitalized, will be the ones that you obviously focus on, and that makes sense.
Well, it does. And an example of that is we were very interested and met with the nice folks at Case Text. And they're a firm that works out of Silicon Valley. And we thought they had really good technology. And we thought that they were an example of something we were recommending to one of our clients. And 2 weeks ago, they were purchased by Thomson Reuters for $650 million in cash. And that's pretty good for a company that's, got approximately 100 people in it. But we agree that that would be an example of us looking at the combination of their business acumen and their ability to drive solutions, plus their technology and the underlying approaches they're taking and the long-term architecture. So those are all things to think about. And we try to reduce the anxiety and risk around those things for the clients we're serving.
So that's still a little less than Commerce Clearinghouse. So, but
good point.
So I remember that was $850,000.
Exactly right.
$50 million. So is there any part of this story that you haven't shared with us that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, Margaret, I think you should tell them why we actually went into business.
Well, let's see here. So I had mentioned earlier that we had worked together for quite a few years in an earlier consulting firm. And we happened to find ourselves each in a place where we wanted to start our own firm. So I had worked in an electrical engineering firm, and I'd done consulting for quite a few years, and I'd worked at a large organization, and I just felt like I was ready to start a firm. And since my dad was also starting one, it actually made a ton of sense to team up. His skill set is very complementary to my skill set. So he's got really strong vision and knows where he wants to take the company. And I am really good at taking a vision or a strategy and executing on it. And so together, it makes a good partnership.
And so, Ray, what are some of the common misconceptions or myths about how how often you should encounter AI?
Well, I think that there's a couple that you might expect. The myths that it's neither of much value, or the myth that it's going to be Skynet and it's just a matter of time before we're all eradicated from the planet. I think both of those are myths that you could have anticipated. But I'll tell you what the myth is that I think is most interesting to us, and that is the impact on people. The AI stuff is going to take the drudgery out of so much of the work, and people are worried that it's going to simply eliminate jobs, and it's probably going to eliminate positions of certain sorts. What we imagine happening is the traditional pyramid of an organization is going to become more like a diamond. And so you have fewer people at the bottom, you have a lot more people moving into the middle, and you have to, as an organization, think deeply about what you're doing from a recruiting point of view, what you're doing in a training point of view, what career paths look like for people when certain positions are being eliminated or some of the processes have been changed so dramatically that they're effectively eliminated. And how do you move people into the middle, and what's the career expectation when organizations are, we think, reshaped from a pyramid with a lot of folks at the bottom to more of a diamond shape where a lot of people have been moved to the middle. Now, the good news from a person, an individual's point of view is that work is likely to be higher level and of more interest. And so, therefore, a firm has to think about how am I moving people from the bottom as quickly as possible into that middle so that they can really deliver value.
And can you share some insights into the ROI on some of your implementations?
I can't. I want to be a little bit careful, but I guess I can use an anecdote. One of the law firms we were working with they do contracts, and they take a look at, these are legal contracts relative to buying technology for large healthcare organizations. So it's pretty specific. But they do a ton of it. And a typical contract will run 175 or 200 pages. And in order to redline that the first time, to read it through, make sure you understand what's in there in the contract, and to identify problems and to redline those problems and to offer alternative language takes a junior attorney about a week typically. That same effort using AI solutions that are available today will change that to about 40 seconds. And it will give you a fully reviewed and redlined document. And much like something that comes out of a junior attorney, a senior attorney is then going to have to take a look at that work and make sure that every element has been done, correctly and properly, and no doubt make some adjustments. But 40 seconds is a great deal better than 5 days. And if you think about that, that also changes the economics for both the client and for the firm. The law firm can no longer charge by the hour. If it only takes 40 seconds, you'll have to have a pretty high hourly rate to make that work. But what they can do is they can begin to package things and change the volume of work that they're doing. And so in this particular case, we have a client that has been able to offer a fixed price offering where they had been offering hourly services at a much reduced cost for the client. They've been able to improve the quality of the work that they're doing. And for the people within the firm, the work is more interesting because they're not just slogging through a 175-page document. And it has been more profitable for the firm. So it's a combination of revenue and improved productivity and improved client service.
Interesting. So, Margaret, I've got one little question for you. What is the best thing about working for your father, and what's the worst thing about working with your father? And you can't take the fifth. You can't take the fifth.
Ooh, okay, good question. So, yeah, it's tempting, isn't it? So beyond just the obvious, it's great to have family time. My dad is actually a really good leader. And so it is an excellent opportunity to work alongside with him and see his leadership style and learn from that. But in addition to that, he's actually also a really good mentor. So he coaches me and gives me opportunities to expand my skill set and develop. And so I think that definitely has to be the best part about working with him, is that I've grown as a leader substantially since joining forces. If I were to answer the worst thing, it's that it is always difficult to choose the right name for him. Is it Dad? Is it Ray? So I toggle back and forth.
Edwin, I'm just making a note here to change my will. I'm writing the other children out just now.
Okay.
May I say what the best thing working with Margaret is? I would have hired Margaret or asked her to be my business partner, irrespective of her, being my daughter or not my daughter. Her ability, her superpower, of course, is to be able to take very complicated things and make them understandable and make them executable, not just for our own staff, but for the clients with which we work. And so, it's a pretty good combination. She and I have really kind of hit a groove as far as working together. So I'm not sure I have a negative. It might be that sometimes she calls me Dad.
That's a good thing to be called.
Fair enough.
So, I think we could, any people who have embraced the internet, I think you could have an interview that could go on forever and ever and ever and ever, because I think we do need real-time updates on what's happening. And I think you obviously positioning this consulting firm in the AI space it's captured my attention, and so not that means anything, but I think you're onto something, and keep us surprised as you move forward. Sounds like some of the niches that you're focused in on. We work a lot with law firms, so in fact, in my previous public life, I had a legal newspaper, so we have a long background there. So, Ray and Margaret, thank you for your time.